Hey, Eric.
Hey, how are you doing, Ben?
Awesome, man. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for
Um,
having me. Appreciate it.
well, thank you for coming and thanks for talking about Qumulo for a couple minutes.
Sure.
Why don't you start by just introducing people to the university, what your all's mission is and what you do there and how long you've been there. Just talk a little bit about your organization.
Okay, sure. I am a systems administrator in the research computing department at the University of Florida. I've actually been there a little over 5 years, probably about 5.5 years now. So I manage our high performance computing system. We're actually, you mentioned SDSC. We're basically SDSC for the University of Florida. So we manage a supercomputer here. We have about 60,000 compute cores. We have about 600 GPUs in that cluster. But this year we also added an NVIDIA DGX SuperPod, which contains about 1,120 NVIDIA A100 GPUs. So that's been a major addition and a welcome addition, and quite the system to manage. So yeah,
I bet that system is pretty popular with the researchers.
It actually we ran. I don't know if you guys are familiar in the HPC world, the top 500 list of top 500 supercomputers in the world. We landed at number 22 with DGX with the SuperPod. So we're pretty proud of that accomplishment for sure. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So between all of the systems we have, when we serve all areas of research, biotech, gene sequencing, RNA, DNA modeling, and then of course machine and deep learning and AI. So we support pretty much everything.
That's cool.
We've been using Qumulo. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, actually, before you jump to Qumulo,
sure.
Before you used Qumulo, what did your storage environment look like? What was the landscape like?
Yeah, so we still primarily use Lustre for the parallel file system for the performance. We've always used Lustre, but we had for what we replaced the Qumulo with, we had an Exenta store system, which was a few hundred terabytes. It was just a dual node, highly available setup. And it served the purpose at the time. It mostly was for home user access, and we had some other kind of just distributed data on it for general purpose. But yeah, even that system when we had was underutilized pretty bad, but it was mostly because we were nervous about adding anything to it. We just weren't sure if it was going to stand up to any additional workload. Not to mention upgrades on that thing were disastrous every time. We planned like a full outage for an upgrade, and inevitably something went wrong. Something didn't work when we came back, so we eventually just said we're done updating this thing. We just can't do it. It's too fragile. So I mean, like I said, it served the purpose. It wasn't heavily stressed, and it tried to have a nice dashboard, but it didn't. It was written in Flash, and half the panels never worked, and there were these tacky gauges that I was just like, okay, it was pretty useless. But
got it.
So come time to retire, we were looking for something better for sure.
So, well, that leads us to then Qumulo. So, what was it about Qumulo that you found interesting, and then what's been your experience using Qumulo since you adopted us?
Yeah, probably. I mean, definitely the key thing that we were looking for was kind of the insight. Like I said, we got kind of tricked into thinking we'd have a dashboard on the previous system. And so we really looked for something, what can show me my data? What can give me any kind of analytics? Give me some nice dashboard. I mean, we write a lot of tools internally running command line stuff, but there's sometimes where it's just easier if someone else has written a nice thing for you. So we needed, an NFS type backstore. So we hit the top names, right? We looked at NetApp was out there, EMC, the Isilon was out there. And we started looking around at the time. I think Qumulo was fairly new, but everything we read about them sounded great. So we, put them into the mix of systems we wanted to evaluate. And performance-wise, we wanted something that could stand up. We wanted scalability, something where we could just add a node and move on. So those are the features we looked at. And most of them all kind of had it. Isilon wanted to ask for license costs for everything. Qumulo said, hey, we have everything is included, but every feature that we have and will ever have. So yeah, I mean, looking around, it looked like the best option. We, maybe you were a little nervous, you guys being new to the game, but we wanted to jump in and we wanted something modern, And so we agreed internally that that's the way we want to go.
Well, what's your experience been so far? Have we earned your trust?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Any problem that we had before has pretty much been remedied by this system. Like I said, the dashboard analytics have been great. Performance has been great. And upgrades, of course, I always have to mention upgrades, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. We do it religiously every quarter. Every 2 weeks, probably a little too fast for us, but I mean, the quarter we have had no issues, so we've been doing that consistently. And we've been adding a lot to it too. So we started with the same purpose as our previous system, with mostly user home shares. We moved our application directory there. We actually have about 1,500 applications for our researchers. So there's a huge tree, and that all sits on Qumulo as well. We started putting a lot of virtual machines on there. So now it's a virtual disk backing store for our libvirt and KVM VMs. We have about 60 VMs running there now. So we've just been adding and stacking those up. And we added another system called Galaxy to it. It's a research-driven project. A lot of people in that space will be aware, but it's quite large, and it has potential to reach every node in the cluster. So yeah, I think that's
awesome.
Yeah, those have been great.
Do you want to talk, just since you mentioned upgrades, I'm sure if I was a newcomer, somebody new to learning about Qumulo and heard us talk about shipping software so frequently, even hearing you upgrade every quarter, like talk a little bit about the upgrade experience. What do you do? What's it like for you? Talk about that a little bit.
So we've originally, we didn't really believe it, right? That it was going to be so easy, to be quite honest. And we try to write documentation for everything, but I was like, guys, literally all it is put the file in place and click upgrade. Just click the button. That's literally all it is. So it's been, so I mean, after really the first time where it worked, I don't think we had virtual machines running yet, so we weren't as worried about it, being impactful, but we just kind of gained trust through every one to where the NFS timeouts, it was delayed enough that it, nothing broke. NFS didn't time out, didn't have to it just reconnected when we were done. So the more recent stuff you guys have done with the containerized updates, and just those have been so fast. I like nothing even notices, like literally, when we put VMs on, that changed things a little, because there's a lot of timeouts in like the backend store, and if the VM can't reach its disk, it's not real happy. And we have a lot of highly available systems set up in there too. But like I said, most of these updates they're hitless. I mean, they're non-disruptive.
That's great.
So
that's great. Yeah, I asked about it because it's one of the central sort of value propositions for the product, is that you buy what you pay on day one is the same thing you pay at the end, but along the way it's getting better all the time because it's software. But that only works if the upgrade experience is pleasant enough that you're willing to do it, as opposed to what your previous storage. So okay, one last question, and then I'll take you off the hot seat here. As a product leader at Qumulo, it's part of my job to make sure we are always understanding what customers like you want in the future, so that we're building the right stuff here. And then I'd love to, even with some of our prospects on the call here, give you a chance to talk about the future. What would you love to see Qumulo do next? What problems at the university could we help you solve as a storage provider?
Yeah, I think some of the really, you guys really almost hit everything that we need. Some things that we're looking to do down the road, we're getting into a lot more, I guess, restricted computing environments, and a lot more compliance and PHI and HIPAA compliance. There'll probably be actually a project coming here at the university in research computing that will probably want a separate file system that has all these kind of controls. And I think we're probably not alone in that, really. So future-wise, I think security is going to be a huge thing. Whether I know you guys offer encryption already, so that that would be useful. But anything in that space that can allow us to safely and be compliant and store that type of data, I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
how these guys in the medical field are already doing it. If they're using Qumulo today, maybe there's other controls they're putting around the outside, but those are definitely the things we're hearing about now.
Yeah, it's a great point. But I mean, I should say for everybody on the call, like we definitely have lots of HIPAA compliant customers that use us all the time. So there's definitely absolutely ways to use Qumulo in those environments. And we actually have our product is it's FIPS under test right now. So we're our software is under test with a FIPS and common criteria vendor, which is one of the ways you prove the security of your products. But man, I got to tell you, it's just about every customer I talk to these days, the first thing out of their mouth is security, security, security. And
Oh yeah.
We hear it all over the place. We've got a bunch of people working on a variety of security features, but I think that the whether it's ransomware or just increased standards, it is such an important thing, and it's clearly very important to Qumulo too. So
Yep.
Great feedback, great idea.
Yeah.
Hey, Pascal, I think it might be time for you to come on in. And as Eric and I sign off, I just want to say, Eric, a huge thank you to you. Thank you for spending the time with
Sure.
us and talking about Qumulo, but also more importantly, thank you for being an awesome customer.
No problem.
So.
Thank you.